The Galactic Council had warned every species about humans. They called them dangerous, unpredictable, violent creatures from a death world where everything tried to kill everything else. The official document said humans were pack-bonding predators who formed emotional connections with anything that moved. Some council members laughed at this. Others trembled at the thought. Commander Vex Alla of the Torathi Empire read every warning file before her assignment. She was being sent to observe a human colony on the frontier planet called New Eden. Her mission was simple: watch, record, report back. Do not engage unless necessary. The Torathi were a proud reptilian species with scales the color of deep oceans. They stood nearly 3 meters tall and feared nothing in the known galaxy. But even Vexala felt something strange in her chest when her ship entered the planet's atmosphere. New Eden was a wild world. Dense forests covered most of the land. Strange creatures roamed freely between the trees. The human settlement was small, maybe 200 individuals living in simple structures made of local wood and imported metal. They had been here for only 5 standard years, yet they had already made the hostile planet feel like home. Vexala set up her observation post on a hill overlooking the colony. She used advanced cloaking technology to remain hidden. For 3 weeks, she watched the humans go about their daily lives. They farmed, they built, they laughed around fires at night. They seemed so ordinary, so fragile. She began to wonder why the council feared them at all. Then she noticed something that changed everything. A young human female named Sarah worked at the edge of the settlement. She was perhaps 20 standard years old with brown hair and kind eyes. Every morning she walked into the forest alone. This was strange behavior. The forest was dangerous. Large predators lived among the trees. Yet Sarah walked without fear. She carried no weapons, only a small bag over her shoulder. Vexala decided to follow her one morning. She kept her distance and stayed invisible. Sarah walked for nearly an hour before stopping at a small clearing. There, she sat on a fallen log and waited. The commander expected a secret meeting, perhaps illegal trading with another species. What she saw instead made her freeze in disbelief. A creature emerged from the bushes. It was a Vexorn cub. The Vexorn were one of the most dangerous predators in this sector. Adults grew to enormous sizes with claws that could cut through starship hulls. Their fur was silver-gray and their eyes glowed yellow in daylight. The council had classified them as Category 7 threats. Approach with extreme caution, eliminate if necessary. But this was no adult. This was a cub, small and young with oversized paws and curious eyes. It bounded toward Sarah like it had known her forever. The human laughed and opened her arms. The cub jumped into her lap and made strange purring sounds. Sarah scratched behind its ears and spoke softly. Vexala could not believe what she was seeing. A human had befriended a Vexorn. The most dangerous predator on the planet was acting like a domestic pet. She recorded everything with trembling claws. Over the following days, the commander learned the full story. Sarah had found the cub alone in the forest 8 months ago. Its mother had been killed by territorial rivals. The cub was starving and injured. Any logical species would have killed it before it grew into a threat. But Sarah had carried it home. She fed it, healed its wounds, named it Silver because of its fur. The colony elders had argued about what to do. Some wanted to kill the creature immediately. Others said it was too young to harm anyone. In the end, Sarah convinced them to let her raise it away from the settlement. She would take full responsibility. If Silver ever became dangerous, she would handle it herself. Months passed and Silver grew larger but never aggressive. He followed Sarah everywhere like a shadow. He learned to fetch sticks. He rolled over for belly rubs. He slept curled around her feet at night. The deadly predator had become completely devoted to one fragile human. Vexala watched their morning meetings with growing fascination. Sarah would bring food. Silver would bring her gifts. At first it was small things: feathers from birds, interesting rocks, pieces of colorful bark. He dropped them at her feet and waited for praise. Sarah always smiled and thanked him. She kept every gift in a special box at her home. Then the gifts started changing. One morning, Silver arrived with something different in his mouth. He placed it carefully at Sarah's feet and sat back with pride. Vexala zoomed her recording device closer. Her heart stopped. It was a Valorian crystal, one of the rarest materials in the galaxy. The Council used them to power interstellar engines. A single crystal was worth more than most planets. Sarah picked it up and turned it over in her hands. She had no idea what it was. To her, it was just another pretty stone from her friend. She smiled and patted Silver's head. "Good boy," she said. "What a beautiful rock." Vexala almost broke her cover right then. She wanted to rush down and explain. That stone could buy a fleet of warships, but she stayed hidden and kept watching. The next day, Silver brought 2 more crystals, then 3, then 5. He had found a deposit somewhere in the forest. Every morning he returned to Sarah with more treasures. She collected them in a growing pile beside her log. Sometimes she arranged them in patterns. Sometimes she used them to play games with Silver. She still did not understand their value. After 2 weeks, the pile had grown substantial. Vexala calculated its worth. The crystals collected by this one human and her pet predator exceeded the entire annual budget of the Tarathi Empire. Enough wealth to reshape galactic politics forever. And it sat in a forest clearing being used as toys. The commander faced a difficult choice. Protocol demanded she report this immediately. The Council would send ships. They would take the crystals by force if necessary. Humans would resist. Blood would spill. The fragile peace between species would shatter. But Vexala had seen something else during her weeks of observation. She had seen the way humans treated each other, the way they shared food when supplies ran low, the way they helped neighbors repair damaged homes, the way children played together regardless of family or status. She had seen Sarah risk her life for a dying predator simply because it needed help. Humans were not the monsters the Council feared. They were something far more dangerous. They were kind. Vexala made her decision. She deactivated her cloaking device and stepped into the clearing. Sarah jumped to her feet in shock. Silver growled and positioned himself between them. His small body trembled with protective instinct. He was ready to fight a creature 5 times his size to protect his human. The commander raised her claws in a gesture of peace. She spoke slowly, using the common trade language. "Do not fear," she said. "I mean no harm." Sarah's fear slowly turned to curiosity. She placed a calming hand on Silver's head. The cub stopped growling but stayed alert. "Who are you?" Sarah asked. "Why were you watching us?" Vexala explained everything. Her mission, the Council's fears, the true value of the crystals. Sarah listened with growing disbelief. When the commander finished, the human looked down at her pile of shiny stones. Her eyes widened. "These are worth that much," Sarah whispered. "Silver brought me enough to buy planets." "Yes," the commander confirmed. "Any other species would have already killed for them, started wars, destroyed civilizations. Your people do not even know what you possess." Sarah sat back down on her log. She stared at the crystals for a long time. Silver climbed into her lap, seeking comfort. He could sense her confusion. Finally, she looked up at Vexala with clear, determined eyes. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "Are you going to take them?" The commander shook her head. "No. I am going to do something unprecedented. I am going to trust a human." She explained her plan. The crystals would remain with Sarah and her colony. The humans would use them slowly and carefully. They would trade small amounts for technology and resources. They would improve their settlement without drawing attention. Most importantly, they would never reveal the location of the deposit. In exchange, Vexala would file a false report. She would tell the Council that New Eden contained nothing of value, just simple humans living simple lives. The planet would be ignored for generations. Sarah agreed without hesitation. She understood the weight of the secret. She also understood that Vexala was risking everything by helping them. The commander could be executed for this betrayal. Why, Sarah asked, "Why are you doing this for us?" Vexala watched Silver curl tighter around Sarah's legs. The deadly predator looked up at his human with pure adoration. He would die for her without question. He brought her treasures because he loved her, not for profit, not for power, just love. Because the commander said quietly, "I have spent my entire life following orders, serving an empire that values conquest above compassion. Your species values something different. You value connection, loyalty, kindness to creatures that others would fear." She paused and looked at Silver. "That cub should want to eat you. Instead, he brings you gifts like offerings to a beloved queen. He places them at your feet like a crown. And you do not even understand what you have done." Sarah smiled sadly. "I just wanted to help him." "Exactly," Vexala replied. "That is exactly the point." The commander left New Eden the next day. She filed her report, and the council forgot about the frontier planet. Years passed. The human colony grew slowly, using their secret wealth wisely. They built schools, hospitals, beautiful gardens. They remained small and humble. They never forgot their promise. Sarah raised Silver until he reached full size. He became the largest Vexorn ever recorded. His claws could indeed cut through starship hulls. His strength could crush stone, but he used that power only to protect. He patrolled the forest, keeping other predators away from the humans. He watched over their children as they played. He remained Sarah's closest friend until the day she died of old age. When Sarah passed, Silver howled for 3 days. The entire colony heard his grief. Then he went into the forest and never returned. Some say he found his mother's territory. Others say he simply could not live without his human. But everyone remembered the legend, the story of a deadly predator who brought shiny stones to a kind woman, who crowned her with treasures she never asked for, who loved her without condition or limit. Vexala heard the news decades later. She was old by then, retired from service, living alone on a quiet moon. She thought about Sarah often, about Silver, about the strange magic humans possessed. They made friends of monsters. They found family in unexpected places. They changed the galaxy not through conquest, but through simple acts of kindness. The council still feared them. Other empires still whispered warnings. But Vexala knew the truth. Humans were dangerous not because they could destroy. They were dangerous because they could love. And that love spread like fire. It touched everything, changed everything, made the cold universe feel somehow warmer. A cub brought back shiny stones. He placed them at a human's feet like a crown, and in doing so, he revealed the greatest treasure in the galaxy. Not the crystals, not the wealth, but the heart that accepted them with gratitude and grace. The heart that looked at a monster and saw only a friend in need. That was humanity's true power. That was why the galaxy would never be the same.